Thank you all for being here. Day 9 of Dry January, if you are partaking. If not, totally fine too. You're welcome. I want to just get right into it and ask each of you what your relationship is with alcohol and what your experience is with Dry January, which I didn't realize is only 10 years old as a thing. So we'll start with you, CJ.
With me?
Yeah.
Oh my God. Off the bat. My name's CJ Muty. I'm the owner of Dry Humor in East Hampton. My relationship with alcohol is complicated and extensive. Definitely deeply rooted in family history. Grew up in a home with alcoholism with both of my parents, and growing into adulthood, both of my older siblings, I saw struggling with alcoholism and addiction issues otherwise, and of course have other extended family members who struggle with alcohol. And I drank as like a teen and in college, of course, in a way that I felt was normal, on par with my peers, right? But probably a little extra. I think I felt like I had this level of protection or something because I had this experience and knowledge about, I know what an alcoholic is. I'll never be like that, But of course, the fact that I'm even having those conversations with myself is maybe indicative of future issues here. But this, family history kind of culminates in 2016 with like the real core, story of, my context of being here, which is my brother died at 37 from alcoholism. Super young, super devastating for me, my family. And, he was an alcoholic, certainly, but I think a lot of us didn't want to see it or couldn't deal with it. I didn't want to see it because we drank together. We were drinking buddies. And so in the years after he passed away, my drinking really shifted to dealing with grief and also kind of wanting to maintain that connection with him in a way, which is so backwards, but I didn't want to give that up. But ultimately, especially by the time we got to the COVID lockdown, I was free reign. It was like 11 in the morning, I'm working a remote job, I'm cracking beers, it's not cute. And I'm just sort of seeing myself behave in ways my family did with, hiding my drinking, lying about how much I'm drinking, and ultimately said, I'm either going to have to stop because I cannot moderate, or it can go as far as I've seen, and this could kill me, and it's a reality. And but yeah, I think it's complicated because all of that said, I have this resentment towards alcohol, but I also wouldn't be here if it wasn't for those experiences, and I wouldn't have had the amazing experiences I've had in the last couple of years with starting the business without it. So that's my take.
And let me ask, did you ever try to do a Dry January or anything like that?
My first Dry January was my first full 30 days of not drinking, so I guess I did it. I don't know. Success. This is only my second Dry January, I guess. Yeah. It's just a dry year all around. Till December.
We're getting into it for real people right away.
Yeah.
So. Laura, what about you?
Also complicated. Used to be lovers. Now we're, I wouldn't even say we're foes. Someone I used to know. I got sober in 2014, and it was a long time coming, although you wouldn't really know that. I was talking to my colleague who's here, Eric, yesterday or 2 nights ago at dinner, and I was saying, do you remember, can you access the place where that time when it was really, do you miss it? Can you access that longing or the good, and can you access the pain of being newly sober? And we talked about it for a good hour, because it's I can't access it being good. I go right to the anxiety or right to the bad, which is a great thing. And it's harder for me to access that original pain of getting sober. So I guess all that to say, it's a relationship that's certainly there, but it's way in the past. You don't think about it much anymore at all. I don't hate it. There was a time when I was very, like you said, I was mad. I was resentful, for sure. I had to push against it a lot. And now it's sort of just a neutral thing, which is really nice. I never tried a dry January. It started after I got sober. I've been sober 11 years.
Old school, OG.
Oh, gee, I guess I am now.
Yeah.
And I would have failed. I mean, the 9th is today. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was saying, like, to Eric, I didn't have a sober week
Yeah.
from the time I was probably 16 to 35. Definitely not. I didn't drink every day, but I would never have had a sober week, a whole week. So I think dry January is great. I think there's whatever, we're probably going to get into it, but that's I don't have a relationship to dry January or experience. My first dry January was my first, sober. I just kept going.
What about you, Jana?
So I've had a lot of dry Januaries. I stopped drinking in 2008 in South Texas, in San Antonio, and I was about 30 or so. And I have 2 kids, and I had my daughter in 2014 and then my son in 2007 or 16. And both of those years I actually did drink. I would like moderate my drinking, I think probably maybe I drank like 3 or 4 times. And I look back now and I think it has something to do with having kids, and like maybe the anxiety, the postpartum, but it didn't feel good when I tried it again. So I haven't drank since then. But most of my relationship to alcohol is I've worked in treatment since 2007. So I work with people every day or over 40 hours a week that struggle with alcohol. I've worked in detox, residentials, outpatient treatment, and I love the people I work with. I love people that struggle. I love people that are trying to change their lives and watching people actually change their lives. So I feel very deeply connected to it because I spend so many of my waking hours talking about it and why people drink and how hard it is sometimes not to drink or not to use something to numb out.
Yeah. And just, I know I'm just your moderator and you didn't come here for me, but I'll,
Yes, we did.
I did do a dry January, and I remember the Patriots were in the playoffs, so who knows what year that was. But I remember really hating it. We'll let that slide. And I remember really hating it and being at a bar and drinking my seltzer water and being like, this sucks. But I did it. My husband's in the audience. He failed. But then a couple years later in 2019, I decided I'm going to try to take a month off. It was a September. There's no like cool thing for not drinking in September, but
Sober September.
yeah. Oh, okay. And I just found like, oh my God, this is so much easier than trying to moderate. And I didn't start drinking again. And so it's been 6 years and change. Wow. And like,
What?
Yeah. Yeah. And I just find my husband doesn't drink anymore either. I think that so much in our life has changed because I also, similar to a lot of stuff what you guys said resonated with me. Also a family history of alcoholism and knowing like that's what an alcoholic look like. And I'm not that, we say it's like our superpower, I feel like I remember the first Sundays that I had that I was like, oh my God, it's amazing. You can like do shit after brunch. Wow. And so I just found like so much joy in it, and I haven't gone back. So thank you guys for sharing that. I know it can be very vulnerable to like share those kind of things, even if we've talked about it a lot with a bunch of strangers, but thanks for sharing that. There's a lot of people like us now that don't drink. So polling has come out, and I'm going to grab my notes because these were like really shocking to me. So the most recent Gallup poll, and Gallup has been asking people about their drinking for 90 years. Fewer people are drinking now than ever have in the history of them asking about this.
Yeah.
So 54% of adults say they ever drink, or it's more pronounced among women. Only 51% of women drink. Young people are drinking less than ever. It was 59% of young people drank in 2023. It's now down to 50%. This was also interesting to me. It doesn't appear the last 10 years marijuana use has been steady. So it doesn't seem like it's been like more people. Maybe they're all doing ketamine now. I don't know. But for the first time in Gallup's trend, a majority of Americans say drinking in moderation, 1 or 2 drinks a day, is bad for one's health, which I feel like would have been really difficult for anybody to admit maybe not too long ago. So why do you guys think this is? Like, is it physical health, mental health? Is it sobriety? Jana, because you work with so many people that are actively trying to quit. What do you think?
I think, it's all of those things. One, people are so much more out about their sobriety, and there are so many more pathways. Traditionally, if you're in the States, it was AA, go to AA. Even if you had a DUI, we were referring to AA. But there are so many different ways now. There are different people talking about it, offering sober community. There are a lot more treatment options and a lot more people speaking about going to treatment and thinking about going to treatment the way we think about utilizing other forms of healthcare and getting help in other ways. It's much more socially acceptable now. It's still hard. There's still a stigma, and I forget that. I was calling people on the way up from Connecticut today and asking, do you think your friends would be embarrassed if they had to go to detox? And I was calling, my friends that don't work and they were like, yeah. People are still embarrassed to say they're going to detox. And that shocks me because I'm like, that's a medical necessity. It's needed to save your life potentially. But there is still so much shame and self-blame that prohibits people. But back to your question, I think because in general, we're talking about it more and we're seeing there are more ways. AA is wonderful if it works for you, but if it doesn't work for you, there are other options now that are far more accessible. And then also, I think we're not, there's the mental health aspect that people know it causes, anxiety, depression. We talk about it the day after, but also we're seeing now the studies too, and really recognizing that alcohol is a carcinogen. And do we want to be taking in a carcinogen regularly when we see the rates of young people with cancer going up so steadily? So I think there's that combination, and it's also, it's a generation that believes in wellness, whether it's, taking infused different adaptogen drinks or, going to CrossFit or doing gym things. It's a generation that has the ability to invest in their wellness in some ways, so I think all of those factors. I had read different studies about cannabis, and I believe the rates of cannabis are going up, especially for those 65 and up. I think it's the highest for that age demographic. So we'll have to fact check that later.
Yeah. I'm gonna follow up with you on that. So there's a question from the audience, and if you haven't already, please put your question in to Slido, and I will. I'll just intuit it, and then I'll read it out loud.
I like that.
So there's so much drinking and celebrating on social media. Why do you think young people are ditching the booze in particular? And you mentioned the health stuff, but yet there's so much drinking that still happens out there, either on their phones or in real life.
I would love to pass it to them actually.
Yeah,
to hear
sure.
their thoughts, because I feel
phone
like
a friend.
Phone a friend.
I mean, I have a 21-year-old niece sitting over here who hasn't had a drop in her life, so let's ask her.
Wow.
No, I mean, I think there's a financial aspect of it too, where I've literally read statistics that young people are getting. I can't believe I'm saying young people and not referring to myself. I don't, but are getting priced out of nightlife. You know what I mean? So there's an aspect of that, and I think my generation, drinking was a rite of passage. All of your adult people are drinking. They're partying. It's sexy. It's cool. It's oh, this is the adult table, and you want to get to the adult table. And I just don't think it's the same anymore. And certainly with, like you said, mental health awareness, I think drinking and addiction, it's often a symptom of deeper mental health issues. And with it being so much mental health awareness these days, I think it just kind of comes hand in hand with addiction issues.
And CJ, are you a millennial like me?
Yes. No. I'm the baby up here. I've only been sober for 2 years. I feel I don't
Gen
know.
X. But I will say, I work with a lot of people that are young and are still struggling with alcohol. So I think, too, that was why I paused, because there are still people that go to college and it's incredibly difficult, or they're working and they're in their community and people still are drinking and partying. We're still seeing parents arrested for allowing underage drinking. So I know we're seeing that statistic, but I also know the reality of seeing people come into treatment every day that are in their teens. And I think sometimes it can feel forgotten when we look at these, the polls, and we're like, 54%. But who are those that are not in that percentage that's not drinking? And how much are they drinking? Because what I've always heard is those that are drinking, they're really pulling the weight of that.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I saw some chart that was the 5% top drinkers drink 70 drinks a week. It's like a super high amount compared to the people on the other end. So yeah, you're right. There's a very high amount of drinking among a very small amount of people.
50% is still a lot too.
Yeah.
That's still a high number of if you have 1 million kids and 500,000 of them are drinking, that's still a lot.
Yeah.
So it's relative. It's great that it's trending down, but it's still a
Right.
lot. I'll try to answer my take or add to what you said about the rates of drinking going down. I would double click or add on to anything that you said, because yes, there's the confluence of factors. There's a social proof factor of sobriety. People see sobriety around now. They see Dry January, they see Sober October. They see all kinds of people on Instagram talking about being alcohol free, and not calling themselves alcoholics and not bringing along the stigma of addiction. They're just doing it because they want to not drink for various reasons. So just being able to talk about not drinking in a way that's not adding a label to yourself is huge. That's enormous. You can have this you could never have that conversation 10, 15 years ago without somebody asking, but why? Mm-hmm. And now it's like, you don't really need to do that, because I don't want to, because I don't feel like it, because I feel better, because it's January, because whatever. I mean, I think that the conversation being blown wide open, the aperture on it is so much bigger that there's just social proof for not drinking. And then, the 2017 Lancet came out with a big study that was like earth-shattering, that said, first of all, that more women are drinking than ever before, and it eventually led to the science coming out to say there's no safe amount of alcohol. So that is a huge sea change in everything that we'd heard certainly in the last 50 years. About alcohol being good for you. And that's just sort of cascaded onto this cultural phenomenon. People like to be healthy now. Yeah. They like to, or at least talk about being healthy. They like wellness is a big thing, And so I think drinking has become part of that conversation. And there's just more voices out there. There's podcasters, there's people on Instagram, there's just more voices that can talk about this from many different angles. And it's not just coming from 12-step rooms.
Yeah.
Or, a family of an alcoholic, and that's the only story you're getting.
I just wanted to add, when you said podcasters, and that I think one of the huge movements too is actually seeing more sober politicians. I think that's been so exciting.
Celebrities.
Yeah, celebrities, but also politicians, like people, actually working in our, coming out and saying, I can hold this position and be sober, and I could have struggled, and I can still serve my community well. I think that's huge too. The people that
yes,
yeah,
I agree. Well, also because there's. I think that is because of all the social proof of a lot of women, especially in the starting 15 years ago with Ann Dowsett Johnston, who wrote a book called Drink. She kind of broke the story on women drinking and talking about alcohol and the alcohol industry. And then it just kept going, more women especially. And it's the women who started, drinking more at that time. So, and the women, men have a role, obviously, but women bring along the family conversation a lot. Women do more talking in therapy. Women do more talking online. Women do more talking in their communities. Women go seek therapy more. Women read more books. And so I think
we're better. Is that what you're saying? No, I'm kidding.
No.
I love men. I know some of my best friends are men.
I love all the I love all the men. Yeah. I know. I like a few.
I love some of them.
No, I like a lot of men are part of that too, but I think women, a big reason is women have talked a lot about it.
Except women still, unfortunately, the percentage of men that are actually able to go to treatment versus women still is around 63% versus 36% women.
Because they have to be home.
Exactly. So there's still so many factors that prohibit women from taking or thinking they can take the time to go to a detox or thinking that it won't be social, death to them to go to detox, or that they won't
you'll be a bad mom. Like
yeah,
there's
exactly,
you know
that
what
it
I
won't
mean?
have
Yeah.
effect on their children and their children's social
interesting.
circles.
Yeah.
So
You would know that.
it's not that there's not a need for women to get treatment, but
Yeah, it's harder.
yeah.
I'm just going to make a quick take the journalist in me. It was a 2018 study that found no level of alcohol consumption improves health, which I know when a lot of my friends who were drinkers heard that were like, and I know I would have been like that. When I was drinking, I was like, shut up, you know?
Yeah.
No one thinks it's good. We're talking a lot about the stigma and the stigma changing. CJ, I want to ask you, when you chose to stop drinking, like, how did you feel about telling people? Like, did you keep it to yourself? Like, how did you feel that stigma or the shame or not at all, maybe, when you decided to do that?
So I felt sort of actually self-conscious because I don't have an extreme story, like a story of like a quote, a fall down drunk. You know, I was very like a problem drinker. I think a lot of us are. Gray area drinker, you know, definitely didn't have a sober week, but I'd get a couple days here and there. So I actually felt self-conscious about speaking about being sober because I felt like my story was not valid enough because I wasn't really like, I wasn't losing my job. I was maintaining relationships and friendships. But no, I mean, I don't have any shame for anything. And I just like, I think I maybe texted my friends and said, just so you know, I'm not drinking, and nobody said boo. And I mean, I have so many family members who are sober for decades. And so I'm very comfortable in that environment as well. So yeah, I felt really empowered by it eventually. My friends are awesome about it. And yeah.
I think that's so refreshing because, and maybe that says something about where we are. Because I feel like, and maybe this is my family, but like 6 years ago, my dad was like, so you're just never going to have a drink again?
What are you talking about?
You know? So it's like,
it makes people uncomfortable,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And like you said, I mean, I think times are changing and more people just aren't drinking, and it's just not a big, you know, why not? What do you mean? It's a literal group 1 carcinogen. I don't think there's nearly as much shame. There doesn't need to be. And I think people are just more confident these days. It's like, I'm going to do whatever I'm going to do. Look at the world around us. I got to do what I got to do to survive. And you better not say a damn word.
Yeah. I think if you don't have like a court order to stop drinking,
Right.
people are some families are a little bit confused.
Right. Like, you don't have to be at rock bottom.
Yeah.
You
I don't
can
know if you guys
stop
know-
any time.
The comedian Josh Gondelman has this, you know, there's like California sober and like whatever sober. I don't know them all. And he's like
there's
Boston,
Buffalo sober.
Buffalo
Oh, yeah,
sober.
what's Buffalo sober.
It's go ahead, yeah.
It's like
It's
I only
beer,
drink
wine.
brown liquor,
Beer, wine, brown liquor. Light liquor.
Light liquor.
Sorry.
Oh, you
got
stay
a real
away from
Buffalo
the brown
Bills fan
liquor.
over here.
and whatever you want to drink when you're at a Bills game.
Pretty
is that-
much, yeah.
Josh Gondelman has this great line that Boston sober is court ordered after driving your car drunk into a Dunkin' Donuts. So
100%.
not that you did this, Laura, but I'm curious, what 11 years ago when you said, I'm not going to drink, like, how did your friends and family react? What kind of, like, did you feel a different level of stigma than maybe the people that you talk to now who are quitting drinking?
I'm thinking because I want to actually answer this honestly. Because okay, so everyone was relieved, first of all. There was no like, really? None of that. Are you sure? Yeah. They were all like, fuck, thank God. Yeah. So that there was no pushback there. I also, like CJ, I didn't feel a lot of shame about, I had lots of shame for being a mom who drank like I did, shame for all the things that I did while drinking. I didn't have shame though about getting sober, and like, I don't know how to describe that. I was like, once I got there, once I sort of said, this is what I'm doing, I was very proud of it. I wasn't, okay, this is what it was. I was not ashamed of having an addiction. I've never called myself an alcoholic. I don't care. I experienced alcohol addiction. It's a thing that happened. And I kind of looked around and went, everybody's lying and sort of addicted to something and like hiding from themselves. And this happened to be the thing that took me down. But so what? So I didn't have the thing around that. I had shame around ways that I behaved. I had plenty of that. But I didn't have the shame around addiction. So I don't know. I don't know what in me didn't feel that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
But
people-
it was different
Yeah.
at that time, for sure. Because the reaction to people around me, and you, we've all sort of talked about that, is like the mirror. It was like, well, like, go deal with that wherever you're going to go deal with it. But they didn't want to have, it was confronting to people.
For people who do see somebody in their family friend struggling with alcohol and maybe they can't see or accept that, like what would you do or say to them? Like what's the best way to support them in getting help?
The person that's struggling, or
Yeah.
because the person
Well, I
that
guess,
loves
like-
someone struggling
yeah.
is also, it's very difficult. It's extraordinarily painful to love someone and watch them self-destructing or watching them hurt themselves and they can't stop. And it's such a feeling of helplessness. So I think about that person first,
Yeah.
because it's so hard to be in the front seat. They're right there every day. So I think for them, it's so important, if you love someone that is struggling, to get your own supports and your own help first, whether that's therapy, a support group, finding people that you feel safe and you don't feel stigmatized talking to. Because even as a loved one, if you love a partner that's struggling, there's still a lot of judgment. But for your question, if someone's struggling, how can you help them if you're their friend? I think the number one thing is the honesty, just saying I see you and I love you and I see you hurting, just to, staying really curious about what's going on for them. And then as far as resourcing, there is so much out there now to help people, so much. I think there's, an element that's really important to mention, particularly with, alcohol, is that it can actually be extraordinarily dangerous just to stop. So if someone's been drinking daily for a long time, they could need a medical detox. And as we talked about, there can be a lot of stigma and shame around that. DTs don't actually usually start for until 24 hours or 48 hours to 4 days sometimes. So someone thinks I'm through the woods, and that could actually be the most dangerous time. So I think too, we now have Google and ChatGPT, and I know people my clients, so many people say that, one of the first things is I looked on ChatGPT and I am drinking too much. I might need a detox. So people are doing that, so there are resources. I wouldn't recommend that, for actually getting real help, but, I would recommend, if I had a friend that's struggling, and this happens a lot, people ask me, I would say get an assessment. Have them go see someone that specializes in alcohol or substance use disorder and be assessed. Because sometimes it's more comfortable going to a drug and alcohol counselor than going to your primary care doctor and being I got to tell you how much I'm really drinking. And people don't want to go on their chart. They're scared it will have insurance repercussions or life insurance. So getting assessed so they can sit with someone that this is what they look at every day, and they're using actual, criteria, and really listening to find out first and foremost the safety factor, and then also assess what kind of willingness they have to change. Do they want to change? And if so, what is their motivation? And then maybe working with that. So I guess my thing would ultimately come down to seeing a professional for an assessment.
This is an audience question, but could you explain why there is a shame associated with getting sober when it is a good thing?
Oh, that's such a good question. Is that for me or anyone, or that's?
Yeah, you want to start?
I think inherently in our pull our boots, self up by the bootstraps culture, it's you can't do something. You've overindulged. I think it does come back to some pretty puritanical, moralistic views about substances, that somehow it's a moral failing, it's a weakness. You inherently have a bad part of you that's hurting other people. You're bad. So I think that's the really deep shame underneath for so many people. And that, in our Instagram culture too, we're looking at people's highly curated lives. And we've always done that, whether it's magazines or TV. But now, I think what's breaking part of the stigma is we are allowing ourselves to be a little more vulnerable and talk about I have a messed up family, or we have a history of alcoholism in our family, with a different sense of openness than we've had before. So I think that stigma is pretty hard baked into us. And it's not just this culture. I mean, I look at the way other cross cultures treat alcoholism, and it can be brutal. extremely different than I think we actually do have some pretty compassionate ways to treat it in the States. So I think that's where a lot of the internalized shame and stigma comes from.
I think it's fear too. Our culture is so steeped in drinking, and it's so prevalent that like it becomes a part of your personal identity. I mean, my bachelorette party was Bud Light themed. There's Karen. She always gets tied on at the Christmas party. Or, you know what I mean? So I think it's like you're ashamed because you have to admit that you have this problem. You don't have control over this thing. But then there's also fear that you'll be socially ostracized, that you will have uncomfortable conversations, that, what am I going to do if I can't? How am I going to connect with people? We've just been taught that is how... our administration just said yesterday that drinking is the best social lubricant there is, and I would heavily argue against that. Given
I will quote what Dr. Oz said.
Get Dr. Mehmet Oz on the line.
He said, "Alcohol is a social lubricant that brings people together. In the best case scenario, I don't think you should drink alcohol, but it does allow people an excuse to bond and socialize. And there's probably nothing healthier than having a good time with friends in a safe way."
Just brutal. So there you go. I don't know. So I think from top down, we're being told drink, and if you don't, something's wrong with you. So people are afraid of that.
Yeah, it's not sobriety. That's the stigma, right? It's what it means about you if you had to get sober. So what both of them said.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're out of control. You had a problem. You couldn't
do what everyone else
couldn't
did.
do what everyone
What's
else
wrong
did.
with
You
you?
couldn't
Like,
control
yeah.
yourself. You couldn't, just stop. You couldn't moderate.
And we forget, I think this gets lost. Alcohol is addicting. Like, you're not weak, you are literally addicted to it. You know what I mean? So it's by design. It wants to keep you coming back. And so I think that kind of gets lost, that like, this isn't just hard socially. This isn't just hard. It's an emotional struggle. You're like literally addicted to this thing.
Yeah. Speaking of some of the changes that we've seen in the stigma and the shame, maybe, CJ, you opened a non-alcoholic bottle shop about a year ago. Dry humor. And I joke that I got sober at the best time because it's the golden age of non-alcoholic beer. It used to be that you'd go to a bar and there'd be like one Dusty O'Doul's that they'd like,
It's been in there since,
here you go. There's still a couple places like that, but they're much fewer and far between. So tell me about like the decision to open that up. And I'm really curious, like who's coming in, who your clientele is.
Yeah. So when I quit, I wasn't physically addicted to alcohol, but there was absolutely an emotional addiction that I was missing. I want to be a part of that culture. I want to, you had a great day at work, you had a bad day at work, let's go to the bar, or, you know what I mean? Or it's 5:00, I want to make a cocktail. I wanted to still do all of those things. And so I love beer. I'm a beer guy. And Bud Light beer guy specifically, because I love myself. So I was like trying to find beers that I was into, and I was having to go to like 3 or 4 liquor stores in town. I'm like, it like literally never made sense. It dawned on me that it is so stupid that you have to go into a liquor store for non-alcoholic drinks, but I was never looking for them before. So it never dawned on me. But so I hated going into the liquor store, and I was like, my friend Julian, right there, that little moonbeam right there. He was like, "Oh, there's an all-exclusive non-alcoholic shop out here in Boston. Dre, anybody go there? They have a spot in Cambridge in the South End." And I was like, "That sounds like a Western Mass thing." So I was like, I did a little research. And I like hit the ground running with this thing, guys. Like, I'm not this person. This thing like grabbed me, and I just like went with it. And so I started getting into contact with other folks around the country who own similar shops, and I found out where to buy these products wholesale. And I was like, let me buy some stuff, see if other people are into it, do pop-ups, online sales, and like worst case scenario, I'll know where to get stuff just for me. And it just like, it was great. It blew up. I ended up meeting my business partner, and we decided just to open up the brick and mortar shop and last February, so almost a full year. And to answer your other question, it's definitely predominantly, I would say millennials, if we want to break it down generationally, but definitely people who used to drink and either don't anymore or who are looking to kind of cut back. Zebra stripe is the phrase where you kind of do every other, you have a beer and then you have an NA beer. But it's like, this is the other thing too. It's folks who have like a medical condition. It's also people who are pregnant, people who are breastfeeding. And, but yeah, mostly folks who are like probably in the 35 to 40 range and looking to either cut back or just want to be back in the party a little bit, kind of feel like a normal adult again in a social setting.
Do you still go out to bars and what's your experience when you go out?
I mean,
you're not social at all, I can tell.
No, but like I'm also not. Like I very like I walk the line, introvert, extrovert. Like I love, I'll go out, but like my couch and me, we're pretty
She said
tight.
she was going to be so nervous that
Every time
that she was going to black out. Maybe this is her blacked out.
This is her blackout now.
No, but this.
You're in a blackout right now.
I can't. None of this is registered. But I'd be like this drinking, but also not drinking. Like I really realized that there wasn't any need. This is so stupid. Why am I waking up so sick and vomiting and feeling like I'm dying when I can have the same good time, if not better? You know what I mean? So I don't even know what you asked originally. So I don't know. I'm blacked out right now.
I like to say that I'm just as annoying and loud as I was
100%.
when I was drinking. Yeah. So I just remember everything now. So when you
I do go out. I still go out.
And do you order drinks?
Yeah.
And like, what's that? Yeah.
I mean, most places will have some of the athletic and some of the, so it's getting more and more popular. And so I'm easy. Like I said, I'm a beer guy. And so I'll order up a beer and it's.
So what do you order if you like Bud Light?
Athletic Light.
Yeah. Little plug for
water?
Rescue Club Light. They have a Pilsner. I'm a Pilsner gal. But yeah, I mean, I'll whatever, anything really. It's really just like, again, this activity, this motion. This is like something like, I can't believe this needs to be satiated. Like I can't, this is all that it took. Like I just had to replace, and like, why can't it just be like a Coca-Cola or something? And that's not to say I don't love my Diet Cokes, but I don't know. There's just something different about like having a sparkling drink in a stemmed glass. Mm-hmm. Why do we love that? I don't know why, but we do. And it just enhances your experience. And you like the experience of making a cocktail, listening to the sounds of the ice in the glass, the pop of the champagne bottle, the glug, glug, glug. I don't know, like it's so silly, but like these are everyday things that seep into like the literal core of who we are as humans. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm.
Laura, I want to talk to you about the Luckiest Club, which is, for anybody who doesn't know, do you want to tell them what it is? And
we have lots
Tell them.
big fans here.
we have lots of members. Noodles. Here. So in the Luckiest Club is a sobriety support community that I founded in 2020, in May of 2020, when height of the pandemic, everything had shut down. I had my first book had come out that January, and I had been talking and writing about sobriety for a long time, well, a few years at that point. And I was like, I know how to run meetings. I could just start hosting some things. And I did, and lots of people started to show up, and it evolved. And eventually I decided I'll turn this into a thing. Because it seemed to be working and it seemed to be something that was needed. A lot of people that had never been to an AA meeting or any kind of meeting came and realized what it was like to be in community. Mm-hmm. People who were just getting sober or struggling with drinking at that time because of what was happening had a place to go. And even people who were in AA or had been for a long time came, and it was just, something a little bit different. And so I started it. We now are going to be in our 6th year, obviously. We have members all over the world, primarily in the U.S. Our CEO is here. Where are you, Eric? I can't. Oh, he's back there.
There he is.
So you can chat with him. Some of you, I'm sure, saw him in the area when you came in. We offer 55 meetings a week. Of all different kinds. We have men's meetings, women's meetings, very large queer population with closed meetings. We have meetings for people of color that are also closed. So we have some affinity group meetings that are for folks that it's important for them to be in their own space. We also have tons of all community meetings, meetings for new folks, meetings for people that have some time because the needs are a little bit different. And we run programs and courses to help people at different phases of sobriety. It was really important to me to have a place that was non-dogmatic, that acknowledges that there are many paths to recovery, and that led with more compassionate and sort of like a growth mindset. Like we want to be with you through your whole journey, because it's not after a while, it's not about alcohol at all. It's about just life and learning to live life. Emotional sobriety.
Yeah.
And who is I guess I want to ask what made you want to start it then? Was it the pandemic happening and like everything? Like tell me more about like the genesis of.
Yeah, it was literally the pandemic hitting, and I had been on book tour and was traveling around for the book, and everything shut down, and I was home like everyone else, wondering like what now? And I saw an email, or maybe it was a Facebook post from I started in AA, and I was still connected to my sort of local chapter at that time, and I saw a notice go up that they weren't having meetings, and I'd never seen that happen, and nobody was on Zoom yet, right? They hadn't like figured. No, we hadn't all migrated. There was a time when that was not the default. Like we'll just hop on Zoom, and so I thought, oh my God, like I've never seen this happen. Not in blizzards, not for any holiday. Like it's always open, and I thought that's really fucked up. And what are we gonna do? What are people gonna do? And that's
Remember, liquor stores were still open.
And liquor stores were still open.
Essential
Delivery
business.
was huge. I think
Yeah.
it went up by 500% or
Yeah.
something, alcohol delivery.
Yeah, liquor stores were still open, and it was honestly just like I know I had run. I know how to do things online. I had developed online courses. Like it was just all there at my fingertips. I had a good email list. I had a good following on social media, and I just was like, I'll use this and try. I figured I would do it for a couple weeks. Because, we thought that was going to be a couple weeks.
Flatten the curve.
Yeah. Oh my God. Flatten the curve. Yeah. Temporary stay-at-home orders. And I hosted like the first, I wouldn't even call it anything. I just had a meeting, and there were like a couple hundred people there. And I was like, okay, this is interesting. And I kind of pulled the best parts of what I liked about AA meetings. Didn't obviously use any AA literature or anything. And then I'm a writer, so I brought in themes and readings of poetry or books that I loved, and I had people come speak that I knew, and it just turned into this thing. And I just felt like there's something here that is a need, and I can do it. So let's do it. And then I was going to shut it down because I had other work to do, and people were saying like, we'd be happy to pay a little bit, like get help, hire people to lead these meetings, because I was leading all of them. I was doing 2 a day, which sounds crazy, but it was crazy at that time, right? I was like,
What else were we
I
gonna do?
wasn't leaving. Just sitting on my couch, leading another
Tiger
meeting.
King in AA meetings
Yeah.
on Zoom. That's what we got.
I binge watched Game of Thrones because I really needed that in 2020. Watched the Tiger King and led some meetings, and homeschooled my daughter.
Yeah.
Yeah, did my duty as homeschool teacher. I decided to just keep going after that, and so scrambled to put together a schedule and a way for people to sign up, and meeting hosts, and got people to do different things, and yeah.
6 years later.
That's what
Amazing.
happened. 6 years later, here we
Guys,
are.
Give it up. Come
AA
on. Amazing.
AA has helped a lot of people get sober, and
Yes.
for a long time has been like the only game in town. And it's a good sobriety program for a lot of people.
Yeah.
But one of the big complaints that comes up is that it's really geared towards men, particularly white men, particularly straight white men. And now we have all these other options like the Luckiest Club and a lot of other programs out there. But why do you think we still like AA is always the thing that like,
Oh, I'll tell you.
oh, well, I'm so glad I asked.
I'm sure you
or
have
somebody in the
thoughts.
audience really asked. So
Well, and this is not I think AA is a phenomenon that is extraordinary and that significantly changed the course of history and how addiction was seen and treated for the better in the late 1930s and early 40s. Before that, people were just locked up. They were seen as crazy, delusional, psychotic, you name it. They didn't know, there was nothing, they didn't understand what was happening. And when AA came out, Dr. Bob and Bill Wilson were the first to say that this is not a moral failing, this is a disease, and it needs to be treated as such. And, you know, they brought in their own, it had heavy roots in the Oxford group, which is very Christian. So it does have, it's not agnostic. It has, or it's not, what's the word I'm looking for? Secular. Woo! It is very steeped in religious texts. But for all of that, the roots of AA are really beautiful. I mean, community, mutual support, it's free, it's cognitive behavioral therapy. Those are all wonderful things, right? But it failed to sort of update the language and literature, I think, which is hard because it was written in the 1940s. But you asked why. Okay, so they were the ones who literally defined the language of addiction and recovery. They defined it. The lexicon that they use in the literature of AA is what is used in the criminal justice system, in the healthcare system, in the education system. That's all that was available. And so it reached millions and millions and millions of people. You cannot overstate the beautiful impact that it had. There was nothing else. And so when there is nothing else, people don't know that they're using the language of AA. That's just, you know, the word recovery, the word alcoholic, the word, the steps, the amends, the one day at a time, all the aphorisms that come from AA. People don't really know that that's from AA. It's just they define the language of recovery. And so it was the only game in town for 90 years. Of course, it's gonna, and that's fine. It's great. I think the best things that have happened have taken what's good from AA and built on it and made it, secular or, and expanded it different groups, updated the science. Now that we know more about trauma, nothing about AA is trauma informed because it was done in the 40s. So we didn't know anything about trauma then. So that's why.
Well, I think too, Al-Anon is a sister program of AA, and I think that has also created more generations of people getting involved and learning about AA. And I've spent time in Al-Anon. It's the same principles, it's the same steps,
same language.
It's all the same language, and I think that's been helpful in continuing to engage involvement in AA.
And Narcotics Anonymous and Overeaters Anonymous. So literally the language of recovery, regardless of the substance or behavior, was developed by AA. So that's why it's the default.
And it works. You connect with people. At the end of the day, you take what you like, you leave the rest. And that's I think especially, it probably was way more religious focused back in, the 30s, 40s, right? But nowadays, the God aspect of it, you can make, it can be whatever you want. And I think it's just, it's take what you like, leave the rest. And it does work. That what you take from it absolutely works.
Yeah, I think that the challenge is that there's no other disease or condition for which we have one modality. That would be crazy. If we treat cancer the same way that we've treated it since the 1940s, no one would accept that. Mm-hmm. So we're just late to sort of update this.
John, I'm really curious what you think of this and think of AA and how that AA comes up in working with clients who are looking to get sober.
I think, again, it can be very helpful for many people. I think all the elements you mentioned, plus I think for our culture, it's one of the few places besides religious organizations that really has such a focus on service. And I think that's very important for our culture, to give something without anything in return that we just need. So I think there are these, like you said, incredible elements that are really can be incredible for people to learn about themselves. You know, the process of getting to spend time to get to know yourself and your fears and all the inventories. Those are all good things that actually I think help people, you know, come into therapy often. But one of the, you know, some of the greater breakthroughs, I think, like you mentioned, is thinking of addiction perhaps as an adaptation to trauma, you know, and all the ways in which trauma can affect people's relationships with substances, relationships with themselves and their mental health. And then also there have been incredible breakthroughs just in medicated assisted treatment. And for some people, it is so important. And for as long as it is, whether it's a few months or a few years, you know, so there are so many options besides antabuse, which, you know, antabuse is still, you know, very frequently used.
And antabuse is a medication.
That you get very sick if you do drink. You have to be mindful about using products with alcohol in it, which we have so many, you know, after the pandemic, hand sanitizers everywhere. You know, many, even shampoos have alcohol in them. You know, it's a lot more than just mouthwash, which is interesting too when we think of alcohol and sort of as a toxin, how prevalent it is in everything. But anyways, I think there are other things, you know, particularly for opiates. You know, we know we've got Sublocade and Suboxone and things that can be incredibly helpful that can get people's cravings, some people, not everyone, down to zero, which can allow them then to make the behavioral changes they need. Because I think sometimes for some people, AA isn't enough. You know, that they need to other types of intervention to maybe then better work their AA program, but to get some help in different ways, whether it's psychiatric help or other modalities in conjunction with AA. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, I think that's a really good point, that it's not just like a thinking disease, which I think is in the AA literature. It's like literally something that it is helpful to have a medication sometimes or something else to be able to get you over the hump. Do you tend to recommend to people like going to AA meetings or trying something else, or like in terms of like dealing with, you know, the aftercare, I guess, after they leave treatment?
Well, I will say most people that go through our doors have tried AA. They have tried, they're usually the people that hasn't worked. They've gone to several meetings and it's not working. So they know what it is. And we actually, like where I do work, Mountainside, we have an incredible meeting every Friday night. It's been there, you know, I've been at Mountainside since 2009. It is huge. It's very community oriented. I love it. I love seeing people come back for like a 20-year coin. You know, it's exciting. But we offer that, but we also offer Dharma recovery, which is, you know, more of a Buddhist-focused recovery program, similar in that it's community and service and certain literature. But we also offer a lot of free, open support groups that I love because it allows people to come and ask questions. Unlike, you know, not every AA meeting can you not crosstalk, you know, not ask someone a question, but, you know, some you can't. So we have meetings where people can come and you don't have to have any affiliation with our treatment center, but just come get support and ask questions. And we always have like a clinical provider in them and a recovery coach so they can hear different views. They can hear their peers and other people, but they can hear a recovery coach perspective or a clinical perspective. So I tend to offer for more of, I always call it continuing care, because we always want you to continue your care. It just doesn't end. There's like no graduation, but to continue care, typically continuing with their therapy. If they're doing 12-step and that helps them, continuing with that. And then several like clinical groups. Besides like being in a residential treatment, there are a lot of outpatient clinical groups where you're still with, you know, a provider, a clinician. You know, some of the clinical groups, you know, that I lead. Yesterday, I was just leading a 3-hour group. You know, they're 3 hours, 3 times a week. So that's like 9 hours of group, and then fitting your life around it. So that's kind of a nice space to be, though, if you just finished like an intensive residential program. It's a lot to go back into your family and work after maybe 25, 30 days being away. So I actually tend to recommend that clinical path where you're getting still that connection, the medication management if you're using it, and that structure, which includes urine drug test. Yeah, that's like a big part of my job is a lot of urine testing, because sometimes people forget. You know, that's part of this malady sometimes is forgetting when people use. And it becomes hopefully a conversation, not to like, aha, got you, but sort of, it is what it is, and you're not good or bad. Just like the number on the scale isn't good or bad, but this is what's in your urine. Whether it's opiates or alcohol, this is what's here. So let's talk about it. Yeah.
It's a new year. We're celebrating 2026, hoping it will be better. What way are each of you celebrating your sobriety, celebrating your health going forward?
You're looking right at me. Huh?
I mean,
Yeah.
everyone turn to you.
I have not celebrated my health in a long time, so I mean, we're coming up on a year of being open at the shop, so that's definitely a huge. I have absolutely no idea how I got here, but no, I think that's a huge celebration, and just like I said before, the health wellness aspect has been kind of rough because of the store, and it's like so hard to start a business and run a business and take care of yourself. And so this year I'm definitely shifting my focus, spending more time with my wife, hiring staff, and just like slowing down and taking a deep breath. It's all gonna be good.
Are you doing anything to celebrate the anniversary?
So probably. I'll figure it out. I don't know. There's a lot going on.
When is it?
Stay tuned.
I'll probably have a party, or I don't know. I literally have no idea.
Okay.
I don't even know what I'm doing.
Can we come?
Yeah, 110%. You're all invited. Come on down. Please. It'd be great. Come on.
Just get on I-90.
Come do a book signing. Get out to my store. Come on. We'll talk.
We'll talk.
Okay.
What about you, Laura?
What am I doing to celebrate 2026?
And your health and your sobriety and everything that
I feel like CJ. I'm like,
The hardest question.
I don't know. It is the hardest question. I think my sobriety is something that I am aware of, and I don't know. I'm very much in the day. Like I'm not like new year, new me. I don't love that for me. I think I'm very much sort of in the day, what's happening now. I'm trying to I have a 16-year-old daughter. I'm like, let's just get through the week. I have a book to write. Let's just get through the next, 500 words. It's January in Boston. I can't see past that right now. So I don't know. I'm generally grateful to turn the page. I was grateful until this week to turn the page on a new year. I'm like, can we start over? It's seems like a rough start.
Great.
I don't have a great answer. I'm generally just very grateful to be here, and this is wonderful. And to be 11 years sober is amazing, and I'm continuously grateful for everything.
No small potatoes.
Yeah, for sure.
No small potatoes.
What about you, Jenna?
I too, I'm just incredibly grateful for my life. I love my work. I love my family, and so I think one of my goals, if I were to have a goal this year, and I hope this doesn't come out as like, I don't know, preachy or something, but I'm trying to consume less. So it's using everything I have in my house, like using up all the lotions, using up all the toothpaste, using up everything before I buy anything. I would really like, and not buying, and this one I don't buy any new clothing. So that's what I'm going to continue. But not using up everything in the house, and all the and just consumables. I love the idea of like supporting like
You only buy new
consumables,
non-alcoholic beverages.
new
Yeah.
consumables. Yeah,
It's all recyclable.
yeah.
Well, this has been a complete highlight of the start of my 2026. I'm so happy that all
Thank
of you
you,
came.
Ally.
I'm so happy that there's so many people in the audience. Please give a round of applause for everybody. And you know exactly where you need to go to get your beer, your books, your help.
Your treatment.
Your
if you have any
radio.
treatment questions.
Beer, books, help, radio.